Twana Young is our Vice President of Curriculum and Instruction here at Mind Research Institute. And if you have not heard Twana speak before, you are in for a treat today. So Twana, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and get started with this session.
All right. Hey, everyone. I'm very excited to be here with you to kind of share a few things with you today and close this out. This has been a really great session. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started. My topic today is helping students uncover the greatness within. And so I'm really super excited to kind of share that with you today. So let me share my screen so you can see that. I'm going to open the chat so I can kind of see what I have a couple of things I'm going to ask you about, and I want to be able to see what you all are saying about that. So I'm going to open this chat, and we're going to use some different tools for today. We're going to use the photo app on your phone. You're going to need to make sure that your chat is open and it's set to everybody. And then you're also going to be using those reaction buttons today. So that's going to be a big part of what we're going to do. So make sure that you know where all of those things are, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to get this started. So we're going to test out our reaction buttons that we have. And what I'd like you to do is think about all this great learning that you've done today, because there has been so much. I want you to think about how many ideas you're taking away from this conference, and then you're going to respond using one of those reaction buttons. So if you are taking away one idea from this conference, then I want you to go ahead and I want you to give me that thumbs up emoji. If you are walking away with 2 ideas from this conference, go ahead and those reaction buttons and give me that smiley face emoji. And then if you are walking away with 3 or more ideas from this conference, go ahead and give me that confetti cannon. So I'm going to give you a second. I want to see all of those emojis. I see a lot of confetti cannons going off. It has been a really great conference, lots of really, really great ideas. So thank you for doing that. Make sure you keep in mind those reaction buttons because we are going to be using them. So for the topic that we're going to talk about today is we're going to really focus on what is greatness, what is an asset-based approach. We're going to look at where you can start. And then we're going to talk about what's next. I'm going to give you a little peek behind the curtain at some of the things that we're doing. So as Deb said, my name is Twana Young. I'm the Vice President of Curriculum and Instruction here at Mind. And I get to make fun things. And coming from a teaching background and coming from a background as an administrator, the best part of my job is I get to make all of those things I always wish I had. And so I'm going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek on kind of some of the things that we're thinking about at the end here. So I want to start off by asking you to think about what greatness means. We all have these ideas of what greatness means. And so I want you to type 5 words or less what greatness means to you, but don't hit send yet. You're just going to type 5 words or less what greatness means into the chat, but you're not going to hit send until I say hit send. Because then we're going to be able to see all of these. It's called a chat burst, or some people call it a waterfall. And that's what we're going to kind of do so we can kind of see where everything's at. So I'm going to give you just about 10 more seconds to type your 5 words. And then I'm going to count to 3. And when I get to 3, I want you to go ahead and I want you to hit that send button. So you ready? 1, 2, 3. Let's get all those. Look at all of those. My chat is lighting up. I'm sure you guys, your chats are lighting up as well. I see a lot of really great ones. So I want you to read what you see. And if something resonates with you, go ahead and give me one of those confetti cannons. So many great things here. Exceeding expectations, making meaningful change, persevering, growing our brain. I love that. Effortless mastery and depth. These are all awesome. So things that you see, I see lots of confetti cannons going off. That is amazing. So we're going to dig into this a little bit about greatness. So when you thought about greatness, You might have thought about great leaders like Gandhi, Malala, MLK. That might have been who came to your mind. Or you might have thought about sports greats like Simone Biles or Michael Jordan or Jackie Chan. And some would say Tom Brady. I don't know if my husband would say that, but some people would say Tom Brady. And then you might have also thought about like academics like Katherine Johnson, Jane Goodall, Einstein. Or maybe when you thought about greatness, you thought about talent and you thought about Carrie Underwood, Denzel Washington. So there's all kinds of things that you might have thought about when you are doing this. And so what I want to do is I want to focus our greatness on these folks that sit in our classrooms. This is the greatness that we're talking about, because without them, without their greatness, without being able to cultivate that, then we need that for our future. And so we need to tap into what they're bringing, because they all have these great brains, these great ideas, these great perspectives. And we need to find a way to bring that in so that we can solve the world's most challenging problems. So I want you to, this is where you need your phone. Get your phone out, open that photo app, and you're gonna scan this QR code, and it's gonna take you to a Mentimeter. And I want you to write 3 words that describe what makes your students great. So 3 words that describe what makes your students great. So go ahead and take a couple of minutes and do that. And we're going to come back to those in a little bit, but just open that phone app, scan that, and then you should be able to get to that Mentimeter and type 3 words about what makes your students great. All right, so you've thought about what makes your students great. And now I want us to shift and think about what students think about themselves, especially in terms of mathematics. So take a look at these 3 questions that I have here. How would your students answer these questions? Who's a doer of math? Who's a knower of math? And who's a sense maker of math? Would your students say they are? Would they feel confident about knowing math and making sense and being a doer? Or would they think that they're not a math person? Think about the adults we know. We probably all know an adult or 2 that would answer the I'm not a math person. And the truth is, everyone's a math person, because math is about thinking and everyone can think. But the problem is not everybody feels that way. So I want to tell you about a student I had in my class, and I'm sure this student's going to be just like some students you may have had. His name was Dante, teaching 6th grade math, came up to me the first day of school, and he said, Miss Young, I can't do math. I used to be good at math until fractions, and fractions taught me that I can't do math. And so I had this young man who, he's 12 years old, and he has this idea that way back in the 3rd grade, when he was 8, he reached the pinnacle of his math success. That's just not okay. And he's not unusual, because every year there were kids. And as I talk to teachers across the country, they talk about kids. And I'm sure you can think of kids. If you can think of a student that feels like they were good at math until something happened, and all of a sudden they're not good at it anymore, go ahead and give me a thumbs up. Let's see how many have students that they can think of. I see some thumbs up that come to mind. And so there's this idea for kids that they reach this point and they get to their until. And so if you've thought of a student that used to be good at math, or thinks they used to be good at math, what was their until? What was it about math that made them feel like all of a sudden, this is as high as I can go? I can't think anymore. I can't think any deeper. This is it for me. What was their until? Go ahead and type some of those into the chat, what those moments were, what the cause was for some of your students. I see a calculus, I see subtraction, division. Someone told them they weren't. Time test, geometry. So there's all kinds of things. And the thing is that every failure, every time they failed a test or they got a bad grade, It just reinforced this idea that they were not good at math. And so we have to change that, because we know from neuroscience that there's not difference between brains. Like there's not a people who are born with like a math gene and people that aren't, but it's really those approaches to life and the messages we receive about our potential. And then it's the opportunities that we have to learn and how we interact with students in those opportunities that helps them understand that they are a math person. And so it's about the messages. And it starts by us thinking about, when we think about math and education, just really, what are the things that get amplified? The things we see in headlines, the things that people are talking about, the things that show up in relation to our students and their abilities to do this. And unfortunately, in society, we get so rooted in this deficit thinking that we have students in our class like Dante who already feel like they're not a math person. And then they start to hear about how they didn't meet the standard, how they have double the learning loss, how they have a gap. And so how can these students that already feel like math is something outside of what it's outside thing, they're on the outside, they can't get into it. And then all of the messages are all about, well, it's because you have a gap. It's because you don't meet the standards. And so we've got to do better. We've got to change the way that we talk about math. And so at Mind, that's what we're doing. We have a mission. I've been calling it a big, hairy, audacious goal, a BHAG, to ensure that all students are mathematically equipped to solve the world's most challenging problems. And so to do that, we are committed to creating curriculum and resources and supports and working with schools and partnering with districts to really help change the way people think about math and their relationship to math. And so we are taking on this asset-based approach. And what that does is it focuses on the strengths and the assets instead of focusing on weaknesses. And it uses strengths to build new strengths. And it acknowledges what students already have. It respects what they know and integrates knowledge and builds off of it. So if we think about that, there's some ways that you can easily get into doing more of an asset-based approach. And that's by identifying your students' strengths. These are not just talents, but it's also things that they're good at, things that they're interested in, things they're passionate about. Identify those things. Identify what the opportunities can be to help them discover how those strengths connect to math, and then provide opportunities for them to learn the strengths of their classmates, and not only learn the strengths of their classmates, but learn from the strengths of their classmates. And so that's what we're endeavoring to do. And so I want to take a look at how we can reframe the things that we hear and the things that we say. So we all know we've been in this crazy pandemic, and it has affected education, it has affected our students, and we hear about unfinished learning, learning loss. And the thing I would challenge us to think about is, let's reframe that, because sure, there are things that students did not get. But there are also things that they did. There's gains there. So instead of looking at a deficit lens about learning loss, let's look from an asset-based and talk about learning opportunities. What are those things that students developed? What did they learn about themselves in this pandemic? What are some of the things that the skills and the competencies that they picked up while they were working at home? Perhaps they were helping with the cooking, perhaps they were managing their time. All of those other things that students were doing provide opportunities to then help build mathematical connections. And so the important piece of all of this is learning to reframe the way we speak about things and looking for the assets in the things that we normally would see as deficits, because language helps create reality. So we have to use it wisely. And so a big part of an asset-based approach is recognizing and understanding that everyone possesses unique characteristics, and these characteristics point to their greatness. And so we need to think about ways in which we can tap into that and speak to the potential and to the strengths and to the capabilities that our students have. And so a big way to do that is by changing the narrative. So I asked you earlier what your students would say about who's a doer of math. Let's think about how we can diversify what it looks like and what it means and who is a doer of math. So who's a doer of math and what does it look like to do math? And then I asked about a knower of math. And so let's think about how we can really think about how we can bring equity into what it means to know math. Multiple ways of thinking, multiple ways of doing something, multiple ways of approaching things. How can we bring equity in what it means to know math? And then the other thing is thinking about who is a sense maker of math. So how can we include various ways students think about math and the strategies that they use to make sense of math, and widen that out and help students make connections? And so we want to use their strengths to build new strengths. And we want to be able to change the narrative of who's a doer, a knower, and a sense maker of math. And so here's some ways to do that. We all probably made fortune catchers. If you made a fortune catcher sometime in your life, or you have students in your school or in your class that make these fortune catchers, go ahead and give me a confetti cannon. And I'm probably going to see a lot because we all probably made these little fortune catchers that we played around with. We folded paper and we did all of that work. And the thing is that we were having fun with it. It probably was annoying to our teachers, but it's mathematical. And so imagine the student who doesn't think they're mathematical, but sits there and they make these things, whether it's origami or paper airplanes, or it's these little fortune catchers, discovering that there's fractions in what they're doing. A fortune catcher is made up of 8/8. So you can have all kinds of great conversations about that. And that's a way to bring them into math and take a strength, something they're interested in, and build off of it. Another example, I don't know what happened to my little design there, but another example is video games. I am terrible at video games, but my children are great at video games. We have lots of students that are great at video games. And if you've ever seen them, there are some games like Super Mario World or something. I don't even know if that's the right title, but they have these really elaborate maps. And even in some of the games, like when you go a certain way, the map shifts. It's crazy. But we have kids who can like take a look at this map and figure out these pathways and plan several steps ahead of what they're going to do to get to their ultimate goal. And they do that. And they don't even think about it. They do it. And they're really doing spatial thinking. And so you have these same kids that sit in your class and you're doing multi-step problems and they feel like they can't do them because they can't think several steps ahead, or they can't think about what a solution pathway is, but yet they do it all the time in a game. And so let's make that connection and help them understand that. And then the last thing I'll share is these students in my Dante that I talked about earlier was one of these students that beatbox or drum on their desk. Those students are actually keeping time. They're keeping time, they're making patterns. And one thing that I would challenge you to do the next time you have one of those beatboxers or the kids that are drumming on the desk, ask them to write out the patterns of what they're doing. And you'll be able to see the patterns, you'll be able to tie it to fractions, and you'll be able to open up a whole new way of them thinking about themselves as a mathematical person. And so these are just some examples. There's a whole bunch of them, but these are just some examples of ways to really connect students and connect them from the things that are unique and that are authentic about who they are to the mathematics and make it meaningful. So it's not just about algorithms. It's not just about getting a right answer. It's about meaning making and being able to use mathematics in the world around us. And so that's what we're doing. And so I wanted to share this in this reframing conversation Student Achievement Partners put this out, and I'll give you a second to read it, but what I really want to focus on is the blue parts. Because the blue parts talk about, they want to dial into the assets that students bring with them so they can unlock the creativity and the energy they bring to the joyful work of learning something new. We all can imagine when we do an activity, we do a project, we do a lesson that kids are passionate about and they're excited about, they come alive. We also can imagine when we do something that they don't connect to at all, or they don't feel like they can do because it's one of those things that math people do and they don't see themselves that way. We can imagine what that experience is like. But when we can bring that passion and joy and connect it to math, then they start to change how they think about themselves. And then those other things, it doesn't become about, I'm not a math person anymore. I am a math person. Now let me make sense of this. And so that's the mind shift that we're changing for our students by having this asset-based approach. And so I've talked a lot about an asset-based approach. Now I want to imagine that you get super excited about this and you go back and you implement it in your school and in your classroom, and they come out and they decide to make a documentary about you. What would that documentary be called? So if you were to adopt an asset-based approach from starting tomorrow on, and at the end of the year, they were making a documentary about you, what would that title be? So go ahead and type it into the chat. What would be the title of that documentary of your school? So go ahead and type it into the chat. Let's see what kind of titles we're going to have here. Some of you I can see are thinking. They thought they could, so they did. I love that. Overcomers. It's a beautiful life. Hey, it's great to have already taken names. Growing pains of a new school, doing the right work. Oh, I love this. Awakening the future. These are amazing. If you're still thinking, I want you to kind of take that idea, this idea of, if I were to put in an asset-based approach, and that's what I was going to do, what would that be called? And write that down somewhere. Put it on a bulletin board, put it in your newsletter, but think about it, what this approach, because it's not just about the title, but it's about what this kind of approach would do for your school. So this is all really great, but how do you do this? Where can you start? I'm going to give you some examples, and we're going to start with the thing that's the best and easiest way to do it because you already love it. It's ST Math. Start with what you're already doing with ST Math. And we're going to take a look at it in these 3 key areas, because to bring out the greatness of students, we have to give them the space for greatness. In ST Math, kids are already having the opportunity to discover things about themselves mathematically. And if we adopt these 3 things as teachers, as administrators, as the way we want to view our curriculum, as the way we want to interact with them when they're doing ST Math, when they're doing math, when they're doing science, whatever it is that they're doing, these things are going to help you start to have a more asset-based approach. And it's also going to help you tap into the greatness of your students. So we want to facilitate student thinking. We want to position them as authors of their own learning, and we want to support them in developing these soft skills like growth mindset, perseverance. And so I'm going to break these down. Facilitating student thinking. So we want to create opportunities, questions, activities that promote student thinking and support them as they do the hard work of building schemas. We want the kids to do the hard thinking. We want them to adjust and to refine, but it has to be on them. And so we have a tool that you can put in the hands of your teachers, and they can use this. And you learn it in the training. It's called the problem solving process. And we've got bookmarks and we've got posters and we've got all kinds of things. But what it does is it facilitates, it positions, and it supports. And the way we do that is by inviting kids to notice and wonder. And we do that because we're focusing their thinking, and we're opening up this opportunity for them to bring in what they know, for them to connect. And then we have them predict and justify, test and observe, analyze and learn. And around they go. They may have to do this multiple times, but what they're learning is every time I try something, there's something to be learned from it. And I might not have it figured out quite yet, but I'm going to keep going around in the circle until I figure it out. I'm going to keep making connections. And so this helps them see that they're an author of their own learning. And then I've got it. Now I'm going to connect it. Now I'm going to extend it. Now I'm going to continue to grow my knowledge and my understanding. And this helps them see those soft skills, see the perseverance, see the growth that they're doing in this. So the problem solving process is not just for ST Math time. It can be used to really drive home this idea of centering students, centering their thinking, tapping into who they are, and approaching them from this asset-based approach. And so when we position students as authors of their own learning, we give them agency and identity and authorship. And so as they play these games, as they play ST Math, and we rely on and supporting them through this problem solving process, that connects directly to the neuroscience that's built into our games. And that's helping them see that they are an author of their own learning. And then we can also support students in developing the soft skills by naming them. So again, reframing. So we have this idea of students get stuck, and students might say, I'm stuck, or we might call them stuck students. But if you changed that and you started saying, you've entered the zone of perseverance, then it's not about, I can't because I'm stuck. It's, oh, I'm in the zone of perseverance. This is where I'm doing my really hard thinking and my really challenging thinking. And I'm going to continue to learn and go around in that circle until I can figure it out. And so changing the name of something as simple as that and calling it a zone of perseverance really can help change how a student is viewing themselves as instead of thinking of themselves as a failure, they're thinking of themselves as having this opportunity to really figure it out, that they just have not made it there yet. And so shifting our language in that vein is really, really important. So I had a student once tell me, and when I started using this zone of perseverance language with students, and I had a student tell me once that when they overcame challenges in ST Math, it felt like they had won the Olympics. And that's something we want to tap into and spread, not just in ST Math, but everywhere. And so last year, one of the principals at one of our schools sent me this journal that one of his students wrote. And I just love it. So I like to share it in different sessions. And so he said, I love math because math is life. It's one of the only places I can go to and feel like I'm a king. Now, don't we want all kids to feel like that? Think of those kids that don't think of themselves as math people. If we can shift this around and make them feel like they can do it and they can feel like kings and queens, we want that for them. We want them to feel like it's something they can conquer and they can overcome. And so all of that is really like continuing to think about facilitating, positioning, and supporting students. When you leave here today, that's the thing I want you to remember. I want you to remember these three things are really going to help you center students, center their thinking, pull out their greatness in their ideas and their thoughts and their strategies. And then a tool to help you do that is this problem-solving process. And so I'm going to show you a couple other things that are now non-directly related to ST Math, but you see I have an example that we pulled some of the characters from the games for. And so this is an idea of creating opportunity for agency and multiple solutions. And it's called a data sign-in. And essentially it's super easy. You write a question on the board or on a piece of chart paper. And I used to do it when kids came into the room and they would write the answer to the question. It might be, what's your favorite number? How many pets do you have? Some sort of way to collect data that has multiple solutions and allows the student choice. And then you can extend these. We could talk about the patterns that we see. We could talk about the ideas that are represented here. We can graph them, we can group them. And you can also see, do we agree with everything that's up here? Because they're anonymous. So you can have this whole checking and challenging each other's thinking. And then you can make other connections to other math concepts. And so this is an example of how we're facilitating, positioning, and supporting students. Now, this is my favorite. And if there's anyone from Long Beach on here, you know what school I'm talking about. One of my favorite things to do are these math wonders, because we want to get students wondering about math. And so I was doing a training in Long Beach at Dooley School, and I noticed this tile in the bathroom. So I got super excited and I took a picture of it. And then I ran into the room and put it up on the screen, and we started noticing and wondering. And there's so much math that comes out of this. And so what a math wonder is, it's taking something, whether it's a tile, and I call this the Dooley tile, or it's, I've done it with students using a postcard, or anything that you see that's interesting and would provoke some interesting conversations. And you allow students to notice and wonder and think about all the math that they could do with it, all of the things they'd like to know about it, all the investigations, and you put it solely in the hands of the students. And then they start to think about it, and they start to think about, well, what could I learn, and what could I discover, and what could I find? And so here's some examples of some things that students have said about this particular tile. And the thing that's great about Math Wonders is you might decide that you want to have students actually get together and think of an investigation that they want and actually do the investigation. Or you might have students think about what kind of math and what would they need to actually do the investigation. And just the fact that they had that conversation, you allowed them to really make sense of math together, to do math together, and to show what they know about math together. So you facilitated their thinking, you positioned them, and then you supported them as they work together. And so this is a really great way to really get this across with students. So those are some ideas of what we've been thinking about in regards to like an asset-based approach, and how we might really begin this idea of creating really profound math learning opportunities for students. And so all of the stuff I've been talking about are things that we have had on our brains, and we've been working on, and we've been iterating on different ideas of how to do something. So I want to take a minute, and I want to give you a little bit of peek behind the scenes of my team and what we do. So my team is the curriculum and instruction team, and we design the professional learning, and we design the curriculum and resources that wrap around our ST Math program. And we're always constantly working and developing new and different cool things. And so one of the things that we really are focused on is that the three things I was talking about: the facilitating students, the positioning students as authors of their own learning, and the supporting students, and creating mathematical opportunities that do that. And then to really change and support students in what it means to do, to know, and to make sense of math. And so one of the big things with mathematics that prevents some students from making sense is it feels very linear, one thing after the other, but it's really this web of amazing learning. And so we're working on unifying math concepts in such a way that it really supports a cohesive way to learn about them. And so that's one of the pieces that we're looking at. And then we're building out more onto this Neuroscience Foundation. So you all have probably heard about the perception action cycle and schema building a zillion times, but we're really building out more around academic discourse and that language processing and problem solving and creative ideation, and then that experiential episodic knowledge. And so we're reaffirming the foundation of who we are as an organization, building products the way the brain learns. And that's what ST Math does. And that's what we're doing in all of the things that we are dreaming up and working on. And then one really fun nugget that we're doing is we're expanding what we've been calling the Mindiverse. So if you're familiar with Marvel, you probably have heard of like the multiverse. Well, we're expanding the Mindiverse. So Gigi is still center of the Mindiverse. Gigi is center, but now we're expanding so other friends can help Gigi. So if you have our early learning curriculum, then you know that we have early learning animals that interact with Gigi and they interact with the game. And so we've got them, but I want to introduce you to some new folks, and you've met them in this presentation. These are math critters, and just imagine like mathematical critters that help you with math and all of the cool stuff that that they can do, and the value add to that. And again, Gigi's the center of this universe, and these are all friends that help, that support to really build a math community. That's what we want to build for students and families and teachers, because we're not just thinking about the students, we're thinking about the whole ecosystem that surrounds the students and how we can really do some powerful mathematics with everyone and bring joy and help everyone see the beauty in math. And then we have another member of the Mindiverse, but I'm not ready to kind of share that yet. So you have to stay tuned to learn a little bit more about that one. And then I want to share with you some of the things that these big ideas that I've been talking about, where you might start to see them show up even now. And so the first thing is the problem solving process. You can get that right now. We have that available. We've got some courses on our academy about the problem solving process. It's built into some of our professional learning. And then in ST Math immersion, some of these ideas, this whole idea of facilitating, supporting, and positioning is built into the ST Math immersion, which is our summer school curriculum. And then we have early learning curriculum that you're gonna see some of those critters start to pop into starting this fall. So you're gonna see some of that. And then we're constantly working on improving the wraparound resources like Puzzle Talks and the other kinds of activities that we have that go around our ST Math games. And of course, our product team is always improving on making our ST Math games even better. And then finally, we are really having a lot of fun thinking up engaging and rich math experiences that really make math feel close and do some of the things that I talked about, like connect kids to math in the ways that they're interested in and help them be able to shine and see the mathematics that they can do. And we're not doing it alone. We've got some folks that are helping us. We're partnering with educators and administrators from across the country. We also are working with students and parents, and they're giving us ideas and they're talking to us about things that they're working on, that we're working on. And so that's kind of like a peek behind the scenes. And so if I can leave you with something, I want to leave you with this idea of, and everything that we do now and that we're working towards, we want to amplify the greatness of our students. We want to provide the opportunities to do that. And so earlier, I asked you to go to this Mentimeter and type in what you saw for students, what you thought was the greatness in the students that you have. And so I want to let's just take a look at what some of those things that you all said were. Look at this beautiful thing. I can't make my screen bigger, but look at this great thing that you guys wrote. Perseverance, curious, resilience, kind, caring, joy, creativity. So these are the things that as you go into the rest of this year, that I encourage you to amplify these things in your students, because these are the things that make your students great. And so I just want to leave you with one quote for my final thing here. And that's this. This is by Les Brown. I'm from Ohio and he's an Ohioan. So I always try to throw a little bit of Ohio into what I do. And he said, when you pursue your greatness, you don't know what your limits are. So you act like you don't have any. So just imagine if students felt like there were no limits to what they could do with math, no limits to what they could do with science, with reading, with all of this, if we just help them see that there are no limits to this. And that's what we want to get at. And we want to create the atmospheres that do that. And so we thank you guys for just being here. We thank all the presenters for being here today and taking the time to kind of sit with me through this. And that's it. Thank you so much.